Our story begins with a girl named Mayanam, a girl who has chosen to hide herself from the world. She never reveals her face to anyone. Whenever she leaves her room or steps outside her home, she does so with a cardboard box placed firmly over her head. She avoids sunlight, avoids people, and avoids anything that might force her to confront the outside world. To anyone who catches a glimpse of her now, she appears strange and unsettling, like a walking mystery. People whisper about her, some laugh nervously, others stare in confusion. Few understand the reason behind her behavior, and even fewer know that she was not always like this. Long before the box became part of her identity, Mayanam was an ordinary schoolgirl. She attended classes, talked with classmates, and carried the quiet dreams common to someone her age. Back then, she believed in simple things, honesty, kindness, and the hope that feelings shared sincerely would be treated with care. There was a boy she admired deeply, someone she had watched from afar for a long time. He made her heart race, and just thinking about him filled her with nervous excitement. One day, after struggling with her fear for weeks, she finally gathered all her courage and confessed her feelings to him. Her hands trembled, her voice shook, but her heart was genuine. She believed in innocent love, in the idea that even rejection could be gentle if handled with kindness. Unfortunately, reality was far crueler than she imagined. The boy rejected her harshly. Instead of responding with empathy, he mocked her openly. He laughed at her appearance, called her ugly, and made sure everyone around them could hear his words. The pain did not end there. Other students quickly joined in, echoing his laughter and turning her confession into public entertainment. Whispers followed her everywhere, laughter filled the classroom, and suddenly she became the center of relentless humiliation. In a matter of moments, her world collapsed. Unable to endure the stares and ridicule, Mayanam ran home in tears. She collapsed into her father's arms, crying so hard that her entire body shook. Shame, anger, and heartbreak overwhelmed her all at once. Once alone in her room, she lashed out at everything around her, breaking objects and screaming through her tears that she would never go outside again. What began as a desperate outburst soon became a promise she truly intended to keep. For nearly a year, Mayanam never left the house. She did not step outside even once. The world beyond her door became something terrifying, a place associated only with pain, rejection, and cruel memories. Safety existed only within the walls of her room. One quiet afternoon, while she sat alone playing with a balloon to distract herself, it slipped from her hands and floated out through the open window. Acting without thinking, she followed it outside. That brief moment of carelessness immediately filled her with panic. That was when she noticed a young man nearby. Seeing her struggle, he kindly offered to help retrieve the balloon. His voice was gentle, his intentions harmless, but fear had already taken hold of her. Overwhelmed by anxiety, she grabbed a discarded cardboard box from a nearby trash pile and placed it over her head. It was an impulsive act, driven by pure panic, yet it would change her life entirely. Hidden beneath the box, she felt strangely secure. No one could see her face, no one could judge her. The young man stared at her in confusion before eventually walking away, but Mayanam barely noticed. For the first time in a long while, she felt safe outdoors. From that day forward, she refused to let anyone see her face again. The box became more than an object, it became her shield, her protection against the world. Years passed, and she continued living in isolation, rarely stepping outside her home. However, online she became someone entirely different. Using a fake name and identity on social media, she made friends from all over. No one there knew what she looked like. No one commented on her appearance. They liked her for her humor, her kindness, and her personality. For the first time since her trauma, she felt accepted for who she truly was inside. This double life continued for years. In reality, she hid from the world. Online, she lived freely. But such a life could not continue forever. Mayanam's father grew increasingly distressed as he watched his daughter isolate herself day after day. She barely spoke to anyone in person, spending most of her time alone in her room, living through a screen. The loneliness surrounding her became impossible to ignore. Desperate to help, he visited her therapist and begged for guidance. The doctor explained calmly that while Mayanam's condition was not immediately dangerous, it was serious. Avoiding the outside world was reinforcing her fear. She needed interaction, communication, and exposure to life beyond her room. Continuing to hide would only deepen her trauma. Determined to change her situation, her father made a difficult decision. He enrolled her in the same school her brother attended. When he informed her that she would be starting the next day, his tone left no room for argument. Mayanam was shocked and furious. She shouted that she hated people, that she refused to leave the house, that she was happy living with the box on her head. She insisted that if she returned to school like this, everyone would laugh at her again. When her father tried to gently remove the box, she screamed and cried, clutching it desperately and begging him not to send her. Still, he remained firm. Later that evening, her brother entered her room holding a new box. Unlike the old worn one she had been using, this box was neat and carefully made. He offered it to her gently, telling her it was better. Slowly, she removed the old box. Her face was revealed soft, delicate, and undeniably beautiful, yet her eyes were clouded with uncertainty. Through tears, she asked her brother if she was truly ugly. Despite her appearance, her confidence had been completely destroyed. He comforted her, assuring her she was not what she believed and promising to stay by her side at school. That night, they sat together decorating the new box with bright colors and drawings. By the time they finished, it had become something special, something that belonged only to her. The next morning, Mayanam walked into school wearing the decorated box, her body trembling with fear. Students stared in confusion. Whispers spread, some laughed openly. Painful memories flooded her mind, her heart pounding so hard she thought she might collapse. At that moment, she accidentally bumped into a boy wearing a helmet. His name was Menon. Unlike the others, he did not laugh. He tried to introduce himself kindly, but terrified of being mocked again, Mayanam quickly walked away. Menon, however, did not give up. He followed her and introduced himself properly. Before they could talk further, she collided with another student, Zero, the leader of a feared group. He demanded she remove the box. She refused, her voice shaking. Menon stepped in, standing between them and telling Zero to leave her alone. Instinctively, Mayanam ran toward Menon for protection. He took her away from the situation, shielding her from further humiliation. Later, she was asked to introduce herself in class. Her voice trembled as whispers and laughter filled the room. During lunch, students surrounded her again and tried to remove the box. She screamed and ran away, sitting alone. Menon joined her, still wearing his helmet so she would not feel different. He brought her food and they shared a quiet meal together. She told him she was ugly, that she had hidden for years, that she was forced to come to school. When she said she would never return, Menon stopped her gently and told her he would wait for her, because now they were friends. That single word made her heart shake. Later, a violent fight broke out between Menon and Zero. By coincidence, Mayanam witnessed it. When Zero suddenly dragged her away and removed her box, fear overwhelmed her. Memories of her past rejection flooded her mind and she fainted from the stress. She woke up in a hospital room, panicking when she realized the box was gone. Her father apologized, promising she never had to return to school again. But through her tears, Mayanam surprised him. She refused to hide. She wanted to return not because she was forced, but because she wanted to reclaim her dignity. The following day, Zero sits alone, separated from his friends and the noise of the school. His usual confidence is gone, replaced by an unfamiliar restlessness. No matter how hard he tries, he cannot push her image out of his mind. Her face, uncovered, vulnerable, and unexpectedly beautiful, keeps replaying in his thoughts. The memory unsettles him. It confuses him for the first time. He finds himself questioning his own actions, replaying the moment he lifted the box and the look of fear in her eyes. The more he thinks about it, the more agitated he becomes. Lost in thought, he barely notices her approach until she is suddenly standing right in front of him. This time she's wearing a mask and dark glasses, hiding her expression completely. Her posture is tense, her hands clenched at her sides. Without hesitation, she begins to scold him, her voice sharp and trembling with anger. She accuses him of crossing a line, of humiliating her, of destroying what little safety she had left. Before he can respond, she slaps him across the face. The sound echoes loudly, drawing attention. Zero's friends immediately step forward, their expressions hostile, ready to defend him. However, Zero raises his hand and stops them at once. He tells them to stay back. Turning to her, he speaks calmly and tells her that if she wants to hit him again, she can. He promises that no one will dare lay a hand on her. His unexpected reaction shocks her. Unsure how to respond, she turns and walks away. Zero follows after her, calling out and asking her to remove the mask and glasses. He admits that he wants to see her face again, that he cannot stop thinking about it. His persistence enrages her. She snaps at him, telling him to leave her alone and stop following her, but he refuses to back down. At that moment, Menon arrives. Seeing the tension, she quickly explains that Zero had forcibly removed her box before and is now trying to take away her mask as well. Menon reacts instantly, anger flashing in his eyes. Without thinking, he throws himself at Zero and the two collide violently. Their fight is fierce and uncontrolled, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. Panicked, Mayanam rushes between them, desperately trying to stop the fight. She shouts at both of them, her voice breaking as she demands to know why they keep fighting over her, why they insist on tearing her life apart. She asks if she is not already broken enough. Her words cut deeply, especially for Menon, who freezes when he realizes how much pain she is in. Menon turns on Zero and demands an explanation, asking why he keeps harassing her. Zero hesitates. For a brief moment he nearly confesses the truth, that he is drawn to her, that he only wants to see her eyes again, that her presence has shaken him in ways he does not understand. But pride wins. Instead of admitting his feelings, he lashes out. With cruel words he denies everything and declares loudly that she is unattractive. The insult strikes her like a knife. Every painful memory comes rushing back at once, the laughter, the rejection, the voices that once labeled her as worthless. She breaks down, tears streaming from beneath her mask before collapsing under the weight of the emotional shock. Menon rushes to her side, lifting her carefully and carrying her away, his face filled with worry and regret. That night, Myeonam locks herself inside her room. She shuts out the world completely, refusing to answer anyone. She messages her online friends, recounting what happened and repeating the belief she has held onto for years, that she is unwanted, that she is ugly, that she will never be enough. She cries endlessly, curling into herself, refusing to leave her room or return to school. Menon cannot ignore her silence. Concerned, he goes to her house to check on her. When her father opens the door, his expression is cold and furious. He blames Menon for everything that has happened and warns him to stay away from his daughter. Before Menon can defend himself, the door is slammed shut in his face. Still, Menon refuses to give up. The next day he returns and learns that her condition has not improved. Remembering how much she loves food, he brings her favorite meal and leaves it outside her door. When she opens it hesitantly, he gently steps inside and tells her he has brought her something special. From behind his back, he reveals a handmade box shaped like a duck, brightly colored and carefully crafted. When she sees it, her eyes widen, lighting up for the first time in days. Menon tells her he made it just for her and promises that he will even wear a matching duck helmet so she will never feel alone. They sit together, eating quietly while wearing their matching designs. The moment is small but comforting. Menon admits that he missed her deeply during the days she was gone and asks her to return to school, promising to stay by her side no matter what. After a long pause, she slowly agrees. The following morning, Menon takes her to school on his motorcycle. As they ride together, she feels a rare sense of warmth and safety. Meanwhile, Zero begins to reflect on himself. He realizes that he cannot continue hurting others the way he has. He tells himself that his friends often pushed him into trouble and blamed him afterward. Frustrated, he turns on them, warning them to stop their behavior. When Myeonam later sees Zero acting violently again, she confronts him. She tells him that if he truly wants to change, he must abandon violence completely. Zero says he is willing to do anything, but only if she shows him her face one more time. The request shakes her deeply. Old memories resurface and fear grips her heart. For a long moment, she remains silent. Zero misreads her silence and begins to lose his temper again. But suddenly, she steps forward and removes the box from her head in front of everyone. Her hands tremble, her eyes fill with tears, and she asks quietly if he is satisfied now. The crowd falls into stunned silence. In that moment, Zero announces publicly that he is leaving the gang. He declares that he will no longer be a bully and apologizes to everyone he has hurt. Later, Menon sees her standing without the box, tears streaming down her face. Shocked and overwhelmed, he rushes to her. She throws herself into his arms, crying that Zero has seen her ugly face. Menon holds her tightly and tells her that everything will be okay, that she is not alone, and that he will never leave her side. When she tells her father everything that happened, he listens carefully. Then he shows her something unexpected. Photos of her are circulating online, and the comments are full of praise, calling her sweet and cute. He tells her to look at herself in the mirror and say that she is beautiful. He reminds her that confidence is what truly makes someone shine. That night, as she sits quietly in her room, she hears a sound near her window. Her heart races with fear as she approaches it, thinking it might be a thief. But when the window opens, she sees Zero. Shocked, she gasps and begins to scream, but he gently covers her mouth and whispers that it is just him. Zero finally speaks to her alone, his voice softer than she has ever heard. He apologizes for everything, for removing the box, for the insults, for every cruel word he ever said. Then he admits the truth he was too proud to say before: she is not unattractive. She is the most beautiful girl he has ever seen. He promises he will never make her cry again. Without waiting for a response, he leaves. Myeonam stands frozen before turning toward the mirror. For the first time, she looks at herself without fear. What she sees surprises her. A small, genuine smile forms on her face. The next day, she walks into school without the box. The hallway falls silent. Students stare in awe. Menon beams with happiness, telling her she looks amazing as they walk together. Jealous eyes follow them. Later, tensions rise again. Zero defends her fiercely. Menon confronts him. Both admit their feelings. The rivalry deepens. The following morning, both boys arrive at her house to escort her to school. Her father watches suspiciously. In the end, Menon takes her on his motorcycle. Rumors spread. A school trip is announced. Life continues. That night, she finds Zero in her room once more. Furious, she throws him out when he asks what she truly feels about Menon. And for the first time, she knows she has a choice. The following day, during the long-awaited school trip, she sits beside Menon on the bus as the scenery passes by outside the window. He seems unusually quiet at first, glancing at her hands resting in her lap, gathering courage. Eventually he speaks, his voice soft but sincere. He tells her that since she entered his life, everything feels different, brighter, as though the world has gained color he never noticed before. Being near her makes him feel calm and hopeful at the same time. He asks her gently to close her eyes. Confused but trusting him, she does. When she opens them again, she feels a warm touch as he presses a shy kiss against the back of her hand. Her face immediately heats up and she pulls back in embarrassment, asking what he thinks he's doing. Flustered himself. Menon stumbles over his words and finally admits that he wants to be more than just her friend. He tells her she doesn't need to answer right away, that feelings don't magically become clear overnight, and that he's willing to wait as long as she needs. Later that morning, while they sit together eating breakfast with the other students, she finally gathers her courage. With a quiet smile and a nod, she agrees. In that small, ordinary moment, they officially become a couple. Menon can barely contain his happiness. Not long after, Zero joins them at the table. The mood shifts instantly. She looks at him coldly and tells him he should be paying attention to his fiancée instead of lingering around her. Zero freezes, clearly shocked, and asks how she knows about that. She replies bluntly that everyone at school knows. Suddenly, Zero stands up, drawing the attention of the entire group. In front of everyone, he announces that he does not love his fiancée and never intends to marry her. Without hesitation, he publicly ends the engagement. The girl, humiliated and furious, quickly claims that she never wanted him either, trying to protect her pride as she storms away. Later that day, when Menon sees Zero and her standing near each other talking, he misunderstands completely. Acting on impulse, he strikes Zero without thinking. The sudden violence overwhelms her emotionally and she collapses once again. Menon panics and rushes her to the hospital, fear gripping him the entire way. When she wakes the next morning, the first thing she sees is Menon sitting beside her bed, looking exhausted and worried. She immediately apologizes, her voice weak, explaining that what he saw was not what it looked like. She tells him everything that truly happened between her and Zero. As understanding dawns on him, his face lights up with relief and joy. Nervously, almost like a child afraid of the answer, he asks if that means she loves him. Blushing, she nods and whispers yes. Menon breaks into laughter, unable to contain his happiness, practically bouncing with excitement. Once he calms down, he asks her seriously to promise that she will try to stay away from Zero from now on. She agrees, giving him her word. When she returns home, her father confronts her angrily after seeing photos of her and Zero circulating online. He accuses her of making poor choices and tells her she could have chosen someone better than a former gang leader who once caused her so much pain. She tries to explain again that it was all a misunderstanding, but his harsh tone wounds her deeply, and she retreats silently to her room. At school the next day, whispers follow her through the halls because of the photos. Students gossip and judge, but this time she forces herself not to break. Menon, however, cannot tolerate it. He confronts the students directly, warning them to stop speaking badly about her. Later, a teacher calls both her and Zero in for a discussion. The disappointment in the teacher's voice cuts deep as she says she expected better behavior. She apologizes sincerely and promises to keep her distance from Zero. Afterwards, Zero follows her and grabs her hand, asking her to listen. Furious, she tells him to stay out of her life, accusing him of bringing nothing but trouble wherever he goes. She walks away and rejoins her friends and Menon. Her friends suddenly suggest that she participate in an upcoming school beauty competition. At first, she is stunned and unsure, but after their encouragement, she agrees. The competition will be between her team and Vivian's team, Vivian being the popular girl and Zero's former fiancé. Preparations begin immediately. Her team wears yellow while Vivian's team wears pink. They train hard for multiple events, including swimming. During practice, she cheers confidently for Menon while Vivian loudly supports Zero, boasting about his strength in the water. After one practice session, Zero stops her to apologize again. He explains that his engagement to Vivian was arranged by their families and meant nothing emotionally. Then he asks her honestly whether she truly loves Menon. She hesitates before admitting she isn't completely sure, though she deeply appreciates Menon's care and devotion. Zero smirks and suggests she might simply be denying her feelings for him. She calls him ridiculous and walks away when Menon calls her, smiling as she leaves Zero behind. The day of the competition arrives, filling the school with excitement. Vivian is confident of victory, but to everyone's shock, her team wins first place. Cheers erupt. Vivian's smile fades as jealousy burns inside her. While her team celebrates, Vivian silently blames everything on her. The next day, she goes looking for Zero but can't find him. Instead, Vivian approaches her coldly and tells her Zero is near the swimming pool. When she arrives there, Vivian and her friends surround her, accusing her of trying to steal Zero. Without warning, they push her into the pool. She struggles desperately, crying for help as they laugh and record her suffering. After pulling her out, they continue to hit and threaten her, warning her to stay away from Zero. By the time they leave, she is shaking, bruised, and broken. Menon hears her cries and rushes over, shouting at Vivian and wrapping his jacket around her. Overwhelmed and ashamed, she pulls away and walks off alone. She ends up in a forgotten corner of the school, filled with old furniture and dust. Seeing her bruised reflection in a cracked mirror, all her old fears return. Crying uncontrollably, she finds a paper bag and places it over her head once again, retreating into her shield. Zero finds her there and gently removes the bag. Seeing her injuries, his expression darkens with rage. She breaks down, confessing that she thought the outside world would be kind, but instead it has been terrifying. She wants to hide forever. Zero tells her firmly that she cannot disappear from the world and promises to protect her. He walks her home safely. When Menon sees them together, jealousy flashes across his face. Later, she confronts Menon about his aggression, telling him she hates violence. He apologizes sincerely and she forgives him. The next day, Zero publicly exposes Vivian by showing the video she recorded. He shames her for her cruelty and tells her she disgusts him. Vivian screams that she did it because she loved him. Zero replies coldly that she is the one who is truly ugly and walks away. Later, a strange student begins watching her from afar. Zero notices and stays close protectively. When a car suddenly speeds toward her, Zero pulls her away just in time and nearly attacks the driver before she stops him. She tends to his injured hand, and he opens up about witnessing his brother's death as a child and how anger became his armor. That night, Menon subtly turns her father against Zero again, frustrating her. The following day, Menon asks about her feelings. She admits she cannot define them clearly. He agrees to give her time, though he knows she cannot fully ignore Zero. That night, she finds Zero inside her room again. Shocked, she asks why he's there. Calmly, he asks where she spent the day. When she tells him she was with Menon, he says he has learned what he needed to know and leaves without another word. The following day, the strange boy who had been quietly watching her from afar finally gathers the courage to approach her. The moment he steps closer, Zero immediately moves in front of her, his posture tense and aggressive, ready to defend her without hesitation. Before things can escalate, she places a hand on Zero's arm and tells him to stop. Her voice is calm but firm, and surprisingly, Zero listens. The boy introduces himself properly and then says something that makes her heart skip. He tells her that he attended her previous school years ago. He remembers her clearly. He was there on the day she confessed her feelings to a boy she loved back then. His expression darkens with regret as he apologizes for calling her unattractive during that time, admitting that he had followed the crowd instead of standing up for her. Then he reveals the truth that shatters everything she believed she had rebuilt. Menon was the boy she confessed to years ago. He was the one who rejected her. Worse than that, he stood by and allowed the bullying to continue, silently watching as her world collapsed. Hearing this, the ground seems to vanish beneath her feet. Her chest tightens, her vision blurs, and she feels as though she is being dragged back into the darkest chapter of her life. She doesn't say another word. Zero notices the way her hands tremble and quietly takes her home. During the entire walk, she repeatedly calls Menon, her voice shaking more with each unanswered attempt. He doesn't respond. Later that evening, Menon finally calls her back, sounding cheerful and playful. Completely unaware of what she has just learned, holding back her tears, she asks him to meet her the next day because she needs to talk. The next morning, Menon arrives smiling, clearly expecting something happy, maybe even another confession of love. Instead, she looks at him with eyes filled with pain and tells him she knows everything. She accuses him of destroying her life years ago, of rejecting her cruelly when she loved him with all her heart, and of letting others tear her apart afterward. She demands to know why he did it. Menon lowers his head and admits that he has lived with guilt ever since. He confesses that what he did back then was a terrible mistake. Overcome by regret, he later worked with her father to create chances for them to meet again, hoping he could fix what he had broken. Hearing this makes her feel even worse. Instead of comfort, she feels manipulated, as if everyone around her has been controlling her life without her consent. Enraged and hurt, she confronts her father. He admits that everything he did came from fear that she would never leave her room, fear that she would never live again. He insists that it was all out of love, but love built on lies feels unbearable to her. Overwhelmed, she runs away to the beach, crying as the waves crash loudly beside her. Zero finds her sitting alone by the shore, staring at the water with hollow eyes. She accuses him of being part of the scheme too, but he shakes his head gently and swears he knew nothing about it. He tells her that her father truly loves her and that Menon likely acted out of guilt, not cruelty. Then he says something that stays with her, that running away from pain only gives it more power. Slowly, her breathing steadies and the storm inside her begins to quiet. When they return home together, Menon sees them and immediately explodes with jealousy, starting another fight with Zero. She screams at both of them to stop. Menon asks her if she trusts Zero more than him. She answers honestly, at least Zero never lied to her. Before either boy can respond, two men on motorcycles rush toward them, one swinging a glass bottle aimed straight at her. Zero reacts instantly, stepping in front of her and taking the blow himself. Menon chases the attackers, but a car strikes him, sending him crashing to the ground. All three are rushed to the hospital. She escapes with only a small cut, but her heart feels unbearably heavy. She visits Menon first, forgiving him despite everything. Meanwhile, Zero realizes that Vivian orchestrated the attack. He confronts her coldly and warns her never to come near Myeonam again. Later, she visits Zero in his hospital room. Her voice trembles as she thanks him for protecting her and helping her become stronger. Gathering all her courage, she confesses that she loves him and asks if he loves her too. Zero avoids answering, pretending to fall asleep, leaving her confused and hurt. The next day at school, Zero keeps his distance. The pain of his silence hurts more than she expected. Then Menon makes a dramatic public confession, declaring his love in front of everyone. She gently rejects him, saying they should remain friends. He accepts with dignity. Finally, Zero steps forward and admits that he has loved her since the first moment he saw her, but pride held him back. She accepts him on one condition, that he leaves violence behind forever. He agrees without hesitation. The school erupts in applause. From that point on, life begins to move forward, not without pain, but with honesty, growth, and courage. She walks beside Zero with confidence, stands up to her father, faces misunderstandings, survives heartbreak, and learns the value of trust. When they nearly lose each other, they realize how deeply they belong together. On her birthday, surrounded by family and friends, she finally feels truly loved. No box, no hiding, just herself.